Hello and welcome into another episode of Locked On Wolves. Today on the show, it's the post-game pod from another overtime preseason loss, this time at the Knicks. But a lot to take from this one. The Timberwolves defense was great early on. We'll talk about the rotation and also notable things about Jean Beringer, Terrence Shannon Jr., and some of the guys fighting for end-of-rotation spots. We'll talk about all of it here next.
You are Locked On Timberwolves, your daily Minnesota Timberwolves podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Wolves podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Ben Beecken. I'm the host of Locked On Wolves. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. Happy Friday, everybody. Happy weekend. Hopefully you had a fantastic week. And today we're going to talk really a post-game podcast talking about Wolves Knicks from Thursday night. We'll talk about the key takeaways. The Timberwolves starters and like regular rotation guys mostly played normal minutes through the first 2.5 or so quarters of this game. So a bit more to talk about there. I thought the defense was great. We'll get into that. We'll talk about some individual performances. Ant played an interesting game. I want to talk about Beringer quite a bit. Terrence Shannon Jr. We'll talk Dillingham. And then also, in addition, and I guess Dillingham fits in this category, but talking end of the rotation guys as well that are trying to battle it out for a spot. But some key takeaways here I want to hit at the top. We'll do studs and duds here towards the end of the show as well. A big thank you off the top for making Locked On Wolves your first listen every single day. Of course, this show is free and available everywhere. That includes YouTube, as well as all of your favorite audio platforms. Wherever you like to listen to podcasts, you can find Locked On Wolves. You can also watch on the Locked On Sports Minnesota app on both Roku and Amazon Fire TV. All right, so the Timberwolves played their third preseason game on Thursday night in Madison Square Garden, and the Timberwolves lost again in overtime, which they lost to the Pacers at home on Tuesday night in overtime after last Saturday beating the Nuggets fairly easily in San Diego. So they're 1-2 in preseason. We could joke about how, man, they lost 2 close games, 2 overtime games this week. It was a problem last year. It's preseason. None of the guys that will be playing in the fourth quarter and overtime in the regular season played. So I'm not going to do the Knicks announcer thing and really harp on that because they really, Clyde really wanted to do that. So there were a lot of Clyde moments that we could talk about for that one. Anyway, so the Wolves did ultimately lose. It is notable the Timberwolves for the first time did play starters for really a regular first half and then the first part of the third quarter. Nobody, not really even any rotation guys, I don't think, played in the fourth quarter at all. I think maybe Shannon at the start of the quarter, maybe Dillingham, Beringer got off the court pretty early in the fourth quarter, kind of fringe rotation guys. But the regular starters and rotation guys did not play at all after the midway point of the third quarter. Should also note Mike Conley sat in this one. Joe Ingles is still out. He has he didn't play Tuesday. The Wolves did announce that he has a groin strain, so he's out until next week. So no Ingles, no Mike Conley, no Jalen Clark. Remember, he got in that collision, I think, with DeLon Wright on Tuesday. So it was a neck sprain is what the team said. So no Jalen Clark in this game either. So your starters were regular starters minus Mike Conley plus Dante DiVincenzo. That meant that Reid was the one kind of primary bench piece for Minnesota in this game. So TJ Shannon was essentially the 7th guy in this particular contest. So nearly a full strength Timberwolves rotation. And early on, the offense felt pretty preseason-y. Similar to Tuesday, there was a lot of ISO stuff for both teams, really. A lot of missed shots. Ant was forcing stuff a little bit and clearly I took it to be Ant consciously saying like, hey, this is preseason. I'm going to force some shots because I'm going to try and work through the kinks of this preseason game, mid-range game, back to the basket game within the confines of a preseason and of an exhibition contest, right? That was what Ant was thinking, I think. Little bit of benefit of the doubt, maybe. And he got to his spots, and he did hit a couple of nice jumpers as well. He had a couple of good kind of step-through moves where he got to the rim and scored. Overall, though, an inefficient night for Ant, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go on here. But my key takeaway from the first part of the game, and really overall, is how good the defense looked. I mean, this is a Knicks team that is nearly at full strength. I mean, Karl-Anthony Towns started and played and scored just 10 points on 11 shots. Jalen Brunson started and played and scored just 11 points on 14 shots in 27 minutes. Mikal Bridges was the most efficient offensive player for the Knicks, 15 points on 50% shooting from the field. But Minnesota did a really good job defensively. They held New York to 20 points in the first quarter, just 18 in the second quarter. So just 38 first half points for the Knicks. It's a really good offensive team. And Jaden McDaniels obviously stood out the most. We're going to talk NBA GM survey on Monday's show because I wanted to make sure we hit the post-game pod today. But like Jaden McDaniels did not get mentioned as in any of the defensive categories, which I think is just absurd. He was fantastic in this game, both on and off the ball. It seemed like he played off the ball a little bit more than we're accustomed to seeing. And who knows if it's saving some mileage because it's preseason or, maybe the Timberwolves are kind of considering not playing him as much on smaller point of attack, initiating guards like a Jalen Brunson and just having somebody else match up with guys like that. But Jaden was kind of in the free safety type role where he was chasing the ball a little bit on some possessions. And then on others, he would start off the ball and then would end up, as kind of the guy who's hedging on some of those screens on the perimeter and then recovering and providing weak side help. Like just kind of all over the place and very active, tenacious, I would say, very spry for Jaden McDaniels in a preseason game. I mean, he doesn't always exert himself that much if the situation doesn't call for it, and somewhat understandably so. It didn't feel that way in this game. I thought Jaden was very active and a big part of the Wolves defense and a huge part of why Minnesota only gave up 38 first half points to the Knicks. Rudy was good defensively. I thought Dante competed. I thought actually Ant as well. A really good overall defensive performance for Minnesota. And given that the defense slipped so much last year, still very good. I think still finished 6th in defensive rating according to Cleaning the Glass. But remember, they were number 1 by far 2 years ago. And there were times, especially early last season, where it was like, all right, they're just going through the motions defensively because they know they're a good defense and why exert ourselves anymore. That's not what this felt like. This felt like a defense that wanted to prove that they were still a good defense. And the Knicks not running great offense and missing some shots helped too, but I do think it was more Minnesota just playing good defense than it was the Knicks missing shots. And offensively for Minnesota, I thought it was more the Wolves, like they missed shots, but I thought the process wasn't great offensively. So the defense I felt good about, the offense not so much. Caveats apply for it being preseason. Minnesota was up by 6 at halftime. They were up by 8 at the end of the third quarter. And it really, I mean, should have won this game in regulation, but once all the regular rotation guys left after the third quarter, for the most part for both teams, the third string-ish guys for the Knicks just kind of ran circles around the third string-ish guys for Minnesota in this one, which is, a little bit surprising, but a lot of variance there, I would say. So anyway, the defense to me is my biggest takeaway from this game. I was very impressed with what it looked like. Crisp defensive rotations. The rebounding was a little bit spotty. And again, we can look at the overall game numbers, but that's going to be skewed a bit. Each team had 55 total rebounds. The Knicks had 18 offensive rebounds, which isn't great. I thought rebounding wise early, Minnesota struggled a bit, and that needs to be shored up. Now, Rudy had 11 rebounds in just 22 minutes. And I guess volume-wise, a lot of those starters, actually everybody but Ant, had 5 or more rebounds. But there were some situations early on that the Knicks got some second-chance opportunities, and there were just more loose balls, 50-50 balls off the rim on the Knicks end of the floor that really, it felt like should have been controlled better by Minnesota. So that was a little bit disconcerting, but overall, a really strong defensive game for Minnesota. And, holding the Knicks to, 90 points in regulation is not a bad showing at all. I want to talk about some individual performances. We'll talk a little rotation. Not that we can glean too much from this because guys were out that are rotation guys, but we'll do our best to kind of parse what we saw and then talk about some of the guys off the bench for Minnesota, some of the individual performances. We'll do all that here next. Today's episode of Locked On Wolves is brought to us by our friends at PrizePicks. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Every day we make decisions, but on PrizePicks, being right can actually get you paid. Don't miss the excitement of this football season with PrizePicks, where it's good to be right. Playing PrizePicks is such a fun, simple way to add more excitement to football. You just pick more or less on player projections like Josh Allen's passing yards or Saquon Barkley rushing for a touchdown, and you're in the game. There's plenty of examples like that. I mean, you might, I don't know, like maybe you think Jordan Addison is going to have more receiving yards or more touchdowns, whatever the case might be. This coming Sunday, actually, the Vikings are off this week, but you know what I mean. That any player, any player projection like that, you can pick more than or less than, and it's a ton of fun to follow the players in the app, and then you can copy your lineups over with one click. Plus, there's a new injury reboot feature, which is awesome for football. If your player leaves early and does not return, it does not count against you. Download the PrizePicks app today and use the code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNBA for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks. It's good to be right. All right, let's talk some individual player performances here. Well, we might as well start with Ant. Like, let's talk about Anthony Edwards. He scored 17 points on 17 shots in 27 minutes. And yeah, he worked on his mid-range game a lot. He still shot 7 threes. Like, it was to the point, like, Ant had 0 assists and 3 turnovers in this game. And I want to be very clear here. I'm not worried about Anthony Edwards' shot selection. I'm not worried about his, like, it's preseason. He's going out there, seeing what if he's worked on all summer is going to work against semi-legitimate, real live competition, albeit preseason, but still closer to replicating live regular season competition than a scrimmage in training camp, right? So we'll see if we get to like 2 weeks from now when they start on the West Coast against the Lakers in Portland, if we're seeing some of this, like the forced mid-range jumpers, if he's turning in 0 assists, 3 turnover nights with regularity early in the season, that's a different conversation. I'm not going to be too worried about that now. The polish on the mid-range game is close to being there. It's just the shot wasn't going down. I didn't really have a major problem. Like, I thought he looked the part. I mean, he always does, right? It was more the shot selection, and then he had a lot of in and out opportunities in this game. 2 of 7 on threes, most of them good looks. Some catch and shoot, some off the dribble, got to the line 4 times, 3 rebounds, 1 steal, 1 block. Overall, I actually didn't think it was that bad of an Ant game outside of the shot selection and some misfortune with shots rimming out. As I mentioned earlier, had some nice step through moves, had a couple, right idea type passes that didn't end up converting. So nothing alarming here from Ant, but just notable that there was so much in terms of volume, shots period, but also from the mid-range, kind of the short to mid-range. Which is better than a long mid-range, right? Like, if he can get his back to the basket and he's not MJ, but like if he can be good enough on those turnarounds to be impactful, layering that into everything else he can do, obviously that makes him extremely dangerous and one of the top 2 or 3 offensive options in the league if he isn't already. So I thought that was interesting, and shot selection is something we'll just have to keep an eye on here moving forward. Julius Randle, former New York Knick in New York, 16 points on 10 shots, 5 boards. I thought he played really well. Hit a couple of tough shots, hit a 3 from the corner early. That was a nice moment. Overall, Julius, very, just a solid Julius Randle game and active defensively, the whole thing. I thought that was really good. Jean Beringer, this was not his best game. I mean, he's played 3 preseason games so far. He was relatively inconsequential on the offensive end. He did convert an alley-oop for his only made field goal, and then he missed badly on his other field goal attempt near the rim. He was 1 of 2 shooting overall. 3 boards in 19 minutes, only 1 offensive, and I think he's going to have to make hay on the offensive glass if he wants some more scoring opportunities, and that's going to be where he has a rebounding advantage. Defensively, he needs to work on his positioning and his physicality. He's obviously a 19-year-old who's very thin, tall, athletic, long, yes, but very thin and not built out. We saw him get bullied in the post by Valanciunas last Saturday against the Nuggets. And, that wasn't as bad on Tuesday against the Pacers. But in this game, I thought he looked a little out of position rebounding the basketball. He wasn't boxing guys out. It was more, he was just kind of jumping, leaving the floor, losing his base and getting his legs kind of taken out, which is the whole reason why staying low, boxing guys out instead of just relying on athleticism is important. Now, he's long enough and athletic enough that can work sometimes, but he's not strong enough to get away with it all the time. And so I think some fundamentals there, and frankly, just more reps, like seeing the ball come off the rim and understanding. I remember Kevin Love talking about the art of a shot goes up on one side. You can kind of approximate where the rebound is most likely to go on the other side, right? Like it's not 100 times out of 100, but it's probabilities, right? It's a game of probabilities, just like really anything else. And that comes with experience. So Berenger can get away with the length, the athleticism some nights against some teams, against some opponents, but that won't necessarily always be the case. And the Knicks are a big enough, physical enough team that I thought it was exposed a little bit for Berenger. So the rebounding is going to need a little bit of work. Now, he did impact the game defensively, no question. He had one big block, hit a couple of other altered shots. One I thought he might have even gotten a piece of and maybe should have had 2 blocks on the night. But defensively, he still had a massive impact. He really did. It was just more on the glass, some of those second chance opportunities the Knicks were getting, or rebounds that the Wolves ended up corralling, but really should have been Berenger's. I do think that there's quite a bit of a learning curve there. And sitting here right now in early October, Berenger is very unlikely to be a member of the rotation, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. I think he's on the outside looking in rotation-wise, which was always the case, but he's been good enough in Summer League and preseason and supposedly in practice and training camp and everything that, like, I'm at least having to acknowledge the fact that I don't think he's in the rotation because he could play, as I said the other day, he could play minutes right now in the rotation and more than hold his own because he's that good defensively. He's so bouncy and long and athletic. But, you know, I don't think he's in the rotation as of this moment on October 10th. Another guy we got to talk about would be Terrence Shannon Jr. TJ Shannon was great once again. After every single game, I come on here and I say, hey, he looked the part. 11 points, 8 rebounds in 21 minutes, 4 of 5 shooting, a perfect 3 of 3 from outside the arc. I believe all were from the corners. He did have 3 turnovers to 1 assist, but look, if you put up 11 and 8 in 21 minutes and knock down 3 threes, that's all right. You can turn it over a couple times. TJ was really good. We saw him less initiating in this game. He did have the 1 assist, but wasn't running as much pick and roll. Didn't find as much success distributing and initiating as he did the other night, but he's an NBA rotation player. He is. Was very good in this game once again. And then Rob Dillingham is the other one that everybody wants to talk about, and rightfully so. Last year's number 8 overall pick. Rob in this game was another roller coaster. Certainly better than Tuesday. There's no question. No question at all. 10 points, 5 assists. Did take him 11 shots to do it. Did not get to the free throw line. It was only 2 of 3 outside the arc. So what does that mean? That means he went 2 of 8 on 2-point attempts with no free throws. A little too much from the mid-range. Got blocked a couple of times in the paint when his up and unders didn't work. So, there's a lot of refinement to happen there. No question. But 5 assists to only 1 turnover after what we saw on Tuesday is a really big deal. And there were a couple of nice kind of push the pace moments for Rob. One, I think he scored it through him. The other, he kicked the ball to the corner for a 3, I think, from Shannon. But good hit ahead moments, good kind of like, hey, let's push this thing moments, which is what you need out of Rob Dillingham. If he's going to play, he's going to have to do those sorts of things. And that piece was encouraging in this game. So overall, a good performance from Rob Dillingham. I think roller coastery, yeah. Shot selection, iffy. But 5 assists to 1 turnover and scoring 10 points is nice. I mean, if he's going to put up a higher volume type night off the bench for the Wolves this year, that's kind of sort of what they expect from him. Related to the rotation, I think it's hard to take away too much with no Mike Conley, and I think no Jalen Clark matters less. I tend to think that Jalen and Berenger are on the outside looking into the rotation. I kind of still think that the Dillingham and Clark role is going to flip-flop. I think they've got their top 8, which includes Terrence Shannon Jr., and the 9th spot in the rotation, depending on the matchup, is going to be either Clark or Dillingham. I think that's the 9th spot, and then obviously the other guys then 10, and I think Berenger is 11. I do think he'll play some minutes here and there, maybe defensive end of quarter situations when they want more length on the floor. He's going to be kind of the first man up if there's any sort of garbage time, but Berenger is not going to play rotation minutes. I do think Clark / Dillingham is still kind of sitting in that 9th spot in the rotation, but TJ is going to play 20 a game. Like he just is. Really nice game again for TJ Shannon, as we talked about. And I think that's how this is going to break down. I want to close by doing studs and duds. We'll kind of hit real quick into the bench guys who closed out the game. We'll talk bones real quick, a few of those things. We'll get to studs and duds, and then we'll peek ahead to what we're doing early next week. It's all coming here next. Today's episode of Locked On Wolves is brought to us by our title sponsors over at FanDuel. The NFL season is into week 6 now, and FanDuel has an offer that you do not want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Thursday Night Football this week was the Giants downing the Eagles. The Eagles are now 4-2. I don't think anybody in their right mind was picking it. What did I say on the show yesterday? I think I said I think I actually was pretty nervous about this game. I would not have thought that the Giants were going to win this thing by 2.5 touchdowns or whatever they won by. But anyway, you can look ahead to Sunday. There's lots of fun games on Sunday to look at. The Vikings are on a bye. What was the one that I singled out the other day? I think Rams at Ravens. No Lamar Jackson likely for Baltimore. You take the Rams minus 7.5 and feel pretty good about that, laying the 7.5. Cowboys at Panthers. I'd be a little more nervous about that, but I don't mind Cowboys minus 3. Packers covering a 14.5 point spread at home against the Bengals feels dicey. The Packers are going to win that game. I don't know that they win by more than 2 touchdowns. Anyway, lots of good action to look at on Sunday. Of course, you could bet straight up. You could bet the lines. You could bet live bet. You can do same game parlays, whatever the case might be. You can do it all at FanDuel. What are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. That's FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today to get started. Today's episode of Locked On Wolves is also brought to us by our friends at Quo. One of the tools that help make a big difference for business owners is Quo, formerly Open Phone. It's the same great business phone system that you've heard me talk about before here on the show, just with a new name. And here's why it matters. Every missed call is money left on the table. When every customer conversation counts, you need a phone system that keeps you connected 24/7. Quo is the #1 business phone system that streamlines customer communications. It works right through an app on your phone or computer, so no more carrying 2 phones or relying on a landline. Perhaps the best thing about Quo is that it lets your team share one number. You can collaborate on calls and texts. You can have your shared inbox, and that way no customer is left hanging. Plus, their built-in AI agent is a game changer. It can answer after-hours calls, capture leads, and keep business moving even when you're off the clock. See why over 90,000 businesses trust Quo, formerly Open Phone. Get started free and get 20% off your first 6 months at quo.com/LockedOnNBA. That's Quo, QUO.com/LockedOnNBA. Plus, if you got existing numbers with another service, Quo will port them over at no extra charge. Quo, no missed calls, no missed customers. All right, couple of quick other end of the bench rotation type notes. Bones Hyland, after having a couple of really nice preseason games initially, was quiet in this one. He had just 2 points, missed both of his shots from the field. He did have 3 assisted, no turnovers, and I thought had a couple of nice push the pace moments. And you can see exactly why Tim Conley likes him, why Chris Finch may get sucked into using him as an actual end of rotation guy. I don't think that's the case. Bones Hyland will not be in the rotation 2 weeks from this week. With 12 days or whatever it is till the season opener for Minnesota on the West Coast. Bones will not be in the rotation. But understandably, Timberwolves fans are probably thinking if Dillingham's shaky, if Dante tweaks something, are we just going to go Bones minutes, a ton of them? I think it's on the table because he's played well enough in preseason, and we know Chris Finch likes his veteran guards, and we know how much Tim Conley likes Bones Hyland. He was overall good in this game. I mean, he had 3 stocks in 18 minutes, had the 3 assists and no turnovers, likes to push the pace, and can score points in bunches, can really put up, light the lamp, if you will, to borrow a hockey term, kind of at will. And there is an element of that's helpful, or that can be a helpful element to any given team's bench unit. I just don't think that's a regular thing, and nor should it be, but something to still continue to monitor. This was at least a bit of a lot lighter of a scoring night for Bones Hyland. Solid games from other rotation guys. Nas, we don't really need to talk about him. Rudy, I thought Rudy looked good. We talked about McDaniels defensively. DiVincenzo was fine in his old stomping grounds in New York. He had 3 stocks in 24 minutes plus 3 assists as well. We talked about Randle. Rocco Zakarski, a bit of a rough performance. He continues to just kind of look a little bit overmatched, which is fair as an Australian teenager who isn't going to play rotation minutes at any point this season. But a bit of a rocky 14 minutes for him. Rocky for Rocco. See what I did there? Johnny Juzang and his after 6 of 8 from outside the arc on Tuesday, his encore performance didn't get into the game until the fourth quarter. Ended up playing a lot of the fourth quarter and then all of overtime. 2 of 4 on threes, so he's now made 8 of his last 12 3-pointers in preseason, and I think was pretty good last Saturday against the Nuggets as well. He had 2 boards in 13 minutes, did have 2 turnovers, but Juzang continues to impress and make the case to stick on the Timberwolves roster. The fourth quarter and overtime, especially overtime, was just like third-string guys. Elise Johnson, Enrique Freeman, Jules Bernard, who I said on Tuesday looked great. Did not look great in his 5 minutes. He just played overtime, which is a tough thing to sit for 2+ hours. And then, you got to play the most intense minutes of the game, play overtime. Did not look great. Tristan Newton did hit a 3-pointer, but otherwise also looked a little bit, I don't know, not out of place. Just struggled a little bit. It just not a solid overtime period for Minnesota, and the deep bench guys did not exactly acquit themselves super well in this game. Studs and duds quickly. I think we got to go Julius Randle, 16 and 5 on 10 shots in 23 minutes is really good. I think we can go TJ Shannon once again, 11 points, 8 rebounds, made 3 threes. All 3 of his 3-point attempts, was also a stud in this game. And I think for a third one, I don't know, you could go Juzang, you could go Rob Dillingham. I'll go Dillingham. 10 points on 11 shots, yes, but 5 assists to just 1 turnover, and more good moments than bad, which is important. That's progress for Rob Dillingham. The question, as always with him, is what's the consistency level on both ends of the floor? Will he continue to compete defensively, which I think he has to this point, both in Summer League and through 3 preseason games? And will the offensive efficiency improve a little? Will the turnovers stay kind of suppressed as they were in this game? Those are all going to be key questions for Rob Dillingham as he tries to secure a rotation spot here moving forward. Dud-wise, I don't know. I don't really have, I don't want to single out poor Jules Bernard at the very end of the 19-21 man roster for having a rough overtime, but I guess if I had to have one, it would be him. Nobody else really. Everybody played well for Minnesota in this game. I know they lost by 5, but defensively was very good. Offensively, the process was clunky, and there were some missed open shots too, but there were also some really good moments, and I think the fast break stuff is encouraging. The push into the pace is encouraging. And I think on the flip side, getting back defensively in transition was also very good. Those are all positive signals here as we are now officially halfway through the preseason schedule. All right. Monday, we're going to do the NBA.com GM survey. It's always fun to go through that with the fine-tooth comb and pull at everything that's potentially relevant related to that survey. So we'll do that on Monday's show. And then Monday night, the Timberwolves take on the team from China. And man, I need to look up how to pronounce this name. But that's the Luang Lions, I think. I'll make sure that I get it right for Monday's show, but that's who the Timberwolves play Monday night. And so Monday's show will be all about the GM survey, and then Tuesday will be the post-game pod from the exhibition on Monday. And then only 2 more preseason games remain toward the end of next week on the road, a back-to-back on Thursday and Friday. The following week, we are into the season. So mid to late next week, we'll get into player previews, season predictions, and all that good stuff here as we are now officially, like I said, halfway through the preseason schedule. So a lot to get to here in the coming days. A big thank you for making Locked On Wolves your first listen every single day. Of course, this show is free and available everywhere. That includes YouTube, as well as all of your favorite audio platforms. Where we like to listen to podcasts, you can find Locked On Wolves. You can also watch on the Locked On Sports Minnesota app on both Roku and Amazon Fire TV. And a reminder that for your second listen, go check out the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Show. Our guy Josh Lloyd hosts the #1 fantasy basketball podcast out there. We'll give you daily tips and help you win your league, all while making you a smarter NBA fan. Find Locked On Fantasy Basketball on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Of course, this show is also part of that very same Locked On Network, your local experts on all the biggest stories. Once again, I'm Ben Beecken. This is the Locked On Wolves podcast, and we'll catch you next time.